Hmm? Yeah, I'm going to use it. Good morning. Um, Ramin has the flu, and spiritual life is taking over the service. But so, on behalf of Spiritual Life, I'd like to welcome you, and we'll begin with announcements. But that was my first announcement about Ramin having the flu. About Ramin having the flu. So I have another announcement that we that Ramin got from Tim. Here's the letter from Tim. Maureen completed receiving the transplant yesterday afternoon. Okay. I'm going to go downstairs. Oops. Because I can use that mic. I probably ruined it for David. Maureen, this is from Tim Shea.
Noonan.
Tim Noonan, okay. Can you tell that it's been a crazy time? Maureen completed receiving the transplant yesterday afternoon. Everything went well. It's nice that Teresa has been able to be here since yesterday morning to spend a few days visiting her mom and me. We are so grateful to Maureen's brother Jeff, serving as the enthusiastic and generous donor of stem cells. He sat for 12 hours over 2 days on Thursday and Friday to provide the donation. Now begins the process of Jeff's stem cells and Maureen's body getting used to each other. This will take a while. Maureen will remain in the hospital another 2 or 3 weeks. There will be periods of nausea and fatigue as the process plays itself out. Maureen is not up for visitors yet, but hopefully will be in about a week. We appreciate greatly all the support, love, and prayers coming our way. Feel free to pass any of this on to our beloved OMH community. Love from Tim. So Ramin has asked me to remind visitors to please fill out the pew pads. And this is the time for announcements. It looks like Wendy has.
Thank you. So today is a big day. We have an art show up for Susan Bull Riley, who contributes her art and music and in incredible paintings. So that will be down at the Parish House, and we've welcomed the whole community. So if you see someone you don't know, please introduce yourself and welcome them to visit. And we also, this is the last day of the raffle of her painting. So tickets have been selling quickly. You can go buy some tickets. I'll be in the corner selling them. The drawing will be about halfway through coffee hour, and you can win your painting, or if you don't win, you can buy a painting. But the paintings are selling really fast, so you better get down there. Thank you, Susan.
And I have a couple of announcements. First, I'd like to apologize for anybody that showed up yesterday for our work day. We had to postpone it because the major thing we do is rake leaves, and the trees are holding on to their leaves a little longer this year. So we're going to be doing the work day next Saturday.
Oh.
And a second announcement is, as a member of the Memorial Garden Committee, along with Richard and others, pleased to announce that the final pieces of the Memorial Garden have been put in, and except for moving some plants that have been temporarily housed out on one side, that should be done this week, and the garden will be completed.
Alan, I think the work bee is the 22nd.
Okay.
which is 2 weeks.
Nice to have a wife that can correct you when you need it.
Tim Shane, just wanted to announce that we're going to rekindle the men's group. We're going to gather the third Thursdays, so that's the 20th, and we'll gather at the parish house. If you want to be on that distribution list, we'll also put it in the newsletter. Let me know. And I believe it's going to be 6 o'clock on Thursday the 20th. Also, just want to let everyone know my mother is visiting, so she's pretty social, so she'll probably seek you out versus you having to come to her, but she's visiting for her, and it's been lovely to have her. So.
Alma Payman. I just want to announce 2 events. On the 14th, we're doing a culinary supper celebrating Puerto Rican culture. It's actually sold out, but I just wanted to let you know that Puerto Rican artist Marcy Rodriguez and Ariales Ortiz will be cooking in Taino Kitchen at our home. We'll do more of these. We do like one a month, different cultural affairs where we have a progressive supper and an artist perform some music or poetry or something. If anyone here is a poet or writer, talk to us. My husband's Nate. He's interested in the men's group. And the second event, which is open, is on the 24th. I'm teaching pressure canning, meat pressure canning. We're doing chicken bone broth with medicinal herbs. And this will be at Neighbors in Action on the main street in Cabot at the old, it used to be like a Grange Hall, and now it's an Oddfellows Hall. It's directly on the main street. And if you let me know, I'll email you all the details. We're teaching pressure canning. We're doing chicken broth and medicinal herbs on the 24th from 5:30 to 7:30. Something fun.
Ann, Laura Brown, and I'm just asking for travel. Okay, can you hear me? Maybe it doesn't work. Okay, now can you hear me? No, put your mask on. Well, I don't think. Put it right up. Can you hear me? Okay, all right. So I'm just asking for traveling prayers for my partner and friend, Bud Blunt, who headed out this morning at 5 o'clock to travel to his home in Georgia, 1,100 miles away. So traveling prayers for him, please.
If you didn't hear that, traveling prayers for Bud, who's headed out for Georgia today at 5 a.m. Are there any other announcements? If not, we will now hear the prelude. Thank you, Brent and June. I'd like to welcome you to worship this morning on behalf of the Spiritual Life Committee, which has stepped in for our pastor, Ramin Zahed. After the call to worship, I will turn the service over to our emeritus pastor and my better half, David Connor. Welcome to the Old Meeting House. The Old Meeting House is a place where we honor and love everyone because of exactly how God made you. We honor your race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender identity, the young, the old, and those in between. We welcome you whether this is your first time here or if you are a longtime member. God's house has many rooms, and there is plenty of room for you here. Now let us join together in silence as we settle into this space of worship today. For our call to worship today, rejoice, people of God, as we gather surrounded by the glory of this time and place. Rejoice as we gather here and abroad as fellow travelers on this journey of life. This is our Sabbath day, ordained as a time of rest and restoration, of hope and healing. Come, let us worship together. And now we will hear the introit from the choir.
Great God and Spirit, we gather here with the colors around us on the ground and still in the tree, with Jupiter closer than it's been in 59 years, with a full moon last night, and have so much to be grateful for. We invoke your blessing on all of us, all of those that are connected to us, and all of the works that we try to provide in your name and for the peace in the world. The opening hymn is How Like a Gentle Spirit. We're going to sing number 443. We'll do the first 4 verses, or all 4 verses. First 4. Despite the Well, let's do the last verse. Please join me in the responsive reading in your bulletins. Psalm 66, this is. Make a joyful noise to God, all the earth. Sing the glory of God's name. O God, glorious praise. Say to God, how awesome are your deeds. Because of your great power, your enemies cringe before you. Come and see what God has done. God is awesome in deeds among mortals. God turned the sea into dry land. They passed through the river on foot. There we rejoiced in God. Whose eyes keep watch on the nations. Let the rebellious not exalt themselves. Who has kept us among the living and has not let our feet slip. For you, O God, have tested us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You have brought us into the net. You laid burdens on our backs. You let the people ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water. Yet you have brought us out to a spacious place. I will come into your house with burnt offerings. I will pay you my vows. That my lips uttered and my mouth promised when I was in trouble. I will offer you burnt offers of fatlings with the smoke of the sacrifice of rams. I will make an offering of bulls and goats. Come near, all you who fear God, and I will tell what God has done for me. I cried aloud to God and extolled God with my tongue. If I had cherished iniquity in my heart, God would not have listened. But truly, God has listened. God has given heed to the words of my prayer. Blessed be God, because God has not rejected my prayer or removed God's steadfast love from me. And to the Christ and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now and ever shall be, world without end. So let me get a quick orientation. Ramin was going to preach on the second reading, and so that's down there under what's labeled in your bulletin, First Testament reading. And he was going to preach probably a great sermon called The Open Circle. I'm not going to steal or read his sermon, and so I removed the gospel and put it back where it's before the sermon that I'm going to give. And I am now going to do the reading that was intended to be the one that he gave the sermon on. And I'm going to read the whole story because it's a great story. It's about a very important general in the Aramean country who was the chief military man and hero for that culture. His name was Naaman. Naaman, a general for the king of Aram, was a great man, highly regarded by his master, because through him the Lord had given victory to Aram. This man was a mighty warrior, but he had a skin disease. Now, Aramean raiding parties had gone out and captured a young girl from the land of Israel, and she served Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "I wish that my master would come before the prophet who lives in Samaria. He would cure him of his skin disease." So Naaman went and told his master what the young girl from the land of Israel had said. And then Aram's king said, "Go ahead. I will send a letter to the Israel's king." So Naaman left. He took along 10 kikars of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. He brought the letter to Israel's king, and it read, "Along with this letter, I'm sending you my servant Naaman so you can cure him of his skin disease." When the king of Israel read the letter, he ripped his clothes and he said, "What? Am I God to hand out death and life, but this king writes me, asks me to cure someone of his skin disease? You must realize that he wants to start a fight with me." When Elisha, who was the prophet, the man of God, heard that Israel's king had ripped his clothes, he sent word to the king, "Why did you rip your clothes? Let the man come to me. Then he'll know that there is a prophet in Israel." Naaman arrived with his horses and chariots. He stopped at the door of Elisha's house. Elisha sent out a messenger who said, "Go and wash 7 times in the Jordan River, and then your skin will be restored and become clean." But Naaman went away in anger. He said, "I thought for sure that he'd come out, stand, and call on the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the bad spot and cure the skin disease. Aren't the rivers of Damascus like Abana and Parfar better than all Israel's waters? Couldn't I wash in them, get clean?" So he turned away and proceeded to leave in anger. Naaman's servants came up to him and spoke to him. Our father, if the prophet had told you to do something difficult, wouldn't you have done it? All he said to you was, wash and become clean." So Naaman went down and bathed in the Jordan 7 times, just as the man of God had said. His skin was restored like that of a young boy, and he became clean. He returned to the man of God with all his attendants, and he came and stood before Elisha, saying, "Now I know for certain there's no God anywhere on earth except in Israel. Please accept a gift from your servant." The end of the full story of Naaman. That's chant time. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to follow what it says. So I'm going to sit down and let the chant go. Oh, I went too far? Oh, I did. I skipped. It was because I was following the original that I tried to change. I'll learn. So we're asking now for people to add their prayers, joys, and concerns so that we can keep them and put them in our prayer. Don't be afraid to do something just because I was screwing up here.
You don't frighten me. So it's Catherine Harris. Joys for a family gathering yesterday afternoon where we pressed cider and played apple games and just had a lovely, lovely time with family and a dear friend who joined us. And then on Thursday of this week, I'm heading for a long road trip on my own. So I'll be driving from, well, off and on, visiting friends and family on my way out to Denver, where my son is, and then on my way back. So I'm leaving on the 13th, and I'll return on Halloween, October 31st. So keep me
We'll
in
be
your
praying
prayers,
for
please.
you to have a fabulous trip out and back.
Can you hear me? Oh, can you hear? Yes. Oh, after singing Wendell Berry's poem, The Great Trees, I just want us all to worship and love and care for our trees and our wonderful planet. That's all I have to say.
And Wendell Berry.
Oh, Wendell. Whatever the guy's name, Amazon, who wrote that music.
Peter.
Yeah.
Amma?
As you were doing this reading in 2 Kings, I was reflecting on the saying, create in me a clean heart, and I was thinking about leprosy, and I was taking it as a metaphor. I mean, for me, in an election season, like before the midterms, I was thinking about the leprosy of hatred and division that'll try and rip us apart as a people again and again in this country and across the world. And I'm really going to pray for the help of wholeness and of a greater understanding beyond any politic or story that I'm told about my neighbors, to remember to be a human and to refuse that leprosy and to put away that separation that's going to try and divide us.
You want to give the sermon? It was great. You got it.
My name is Eric Esselstyn. Today, Selena and I would like to welcome to the service some friends from Hanover, New Hampshire, Bill and Cindy Bittinger. Bill is a nationally recognized expert in climate-friendly heat, and although he's here to hear the sermon, and he's got a terrific voice, he's really here to check out our heating system.
I wanted to ask for prayers for the women of Iran who are struggling to stand up to a very oppressive regime and are being killed.
I just wanted to give you a little quick update on my wife. And she's living large and enjoying her sabbatical time, and is, I think, incredibly grateful for that. And she, believe it or not, she misses all of us. And so I just wanted to pass that along. And the second, more somber issue that we have to be aware of is that the nuclear clock is at 100 seconds to midnight. So it's glorious outside, and all the other dangers that the world is fraught with have not gone away like the leaves.
David, I'd like to ask for prayers for Ramin and for all the people suffering from flu and from COVID. I know so many people right now with COVID, including my son in New York, and
it's got to be hard to keep having COVID when the whole world is telling us that it's over, and it's not. So prayers for everyone who's sick right now, and especially the kids back at school.
Yes.
This is Laura again. I'm sorry I asked for prayers for Bud too early, but I'm going to ask again now that the microphone seems to be working better. Bud, my friend and partner, left this morning at 5 o'clock to travel 1,100 miles to his home in North Georgia, and I would like to ask traveling prayers for him, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Susan?
I'd like to ask for prayers for women across the world, that they should have access to the knowledge and the medical care that they need to avoid pregnancy when it's not appropriate for them, and to have the medical care resources and family and cultural support to end that pregnancy if it happens.
I just wanted to say prayers of thanksgiving. Lee Grutchfield gave a concert yesterday, releasing his new CD, and it was incredibly well attended. Merrick organized it, and his daughter, Lindsay, who's been all over Eastern Europe and Russia, surprised them by showing up yesterday morning from Indiana. And it was just a really wonderful celebration of Lee and his legacy of songs he's been writing for over, I guess, 40 years, it sounded like. So they're still very much part of our community here, even if they aren't present physically.
Thanks, that's wonderful. I hope the CDs will be available for us.
I'd just like to add a comment on Lee. I didn't know about the concert. You're not hearing me? Now?
Yeah.
Lee's been a friend of mine for a long time, and he started out as a builder and decided to become an architect, went to Norwich, got a degree, rose up to be a partner in Truex Collins in Burlington, and then he got, in the last couple of years, he got Parkinson's, I believe. No. Alzheimer's, yeah. And I went to see him, and we communicated as well as we could. He remembered me, and he showed me pictures and plans of some of the houses he'd done with great pride. And I wanted to connect with him last summer, or last winter. And I called, or left, I guess I left a message. His wife said, oh, he just got back from a trip to Europe with me, and now would not be a good time to visit. She didn't elaborate, but I've been getting notices, and just last week, he got 2 holes in one game, one outing. It couldn't have been on the same hole. But that seems like an act of God to me.
Any others? We ask God to not only hear what we say, but what we experience and what we feel. And in a morning like this, you can feel the energy, the love, the connectedness, the joy, the concern about the world's situations. And so all of those that we've mentioned, we add all of that feeling and love that's in each other's hearts. And we ask for a moment of silence and reflection. And we'd pray as Jesus taught us, Our Mother, Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Now we come to offer our gifts to God. And while that is happening, we'd remember all of the things that we as a community have pledged to love, support, and help. And each one of us finds a way to take our gifts of talents, time, energy, enthusiasm, and love and make it part of our offering. The offering will now be received. Praise God, all creatures here below. Praise God above, ye holy hosts. Creator Christ and Holy Ghost. Amen. God, we ask you to accept the offerings that we make from our hearts, from our resources, from our time. And may they be blessed by you as gifts coming from the deepest part of where we love and what matters. Amen. The hymn is a hymn of preparation, hymn number 202 in your books, hymnals. Oh God, how we have wandered and hidden from your face, in foolishness have squandered your legacy of grace. But how in exile dwelling we turn with fear and shame, as distant but compelling, you call us each by name. And now at length discerning the evil that we do, by faith we are returning with hope and trust in you. In haste you come to meet us, and home rejoicing bring. In gladness there to greet us, with calf and robe and ring. O God of all the living, both banished and restored, compassionate, forgiving, our peace and hope assured, grant now that our transgressing, our faithfulness may cease. Stretch out your hand in blessing, in pardon and in peace. Please be seated. The gospel reading is taken from Luke's gospel, the 17th chapter, the 11th to the 19th verse. On the journey to Jerusalem, Jesus passed along the borders of Samaria and Galilee. And as Jesus was entering a village, 10 people with leprosy met him. Keeping their distance, they raised their voices and said, "Jesus, Rabbi, have pity on us." When Jesus saw them, he responded, "Go and show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were healed. One of them, realizing what had happened, came back, praising God in a loud voice, and fell down at the feet of Jesus and spoke his praises. The individual was a Samaritan. And Jesus replied, "Weren't all 10 made whole? Where are the other 9? Was there no one to return and give thanks except this foreigner?" Then Jesus said to the Samaritan, "Stand up and go your way. Your faith has saved you." The end of the reading of the gospel. So I've got a sermon that could take about 4 weeks. The sermon I've been thinking a lot about in this time of world divisions in so many ways was the pedagogy that Jesus used. And so in my mind, I like to have some time to talk about what I've studied and observed about Jesus' style and approach to trying to teach about a God of love that was found for and in everyone, and every being had the spirit of God's wonderfulness and love inside her and him. But I can't, in this period of time, do it. So I wanted to say that the whole leprosy thing that was connected in both places reminds me of what is one of the core messages that Jesus had. And I'm going to take a paragraph out of a book that talks about the story of Jesus after he had been baptized by John. It says, Jesus did not, he may have done a little bit of baptizing of repentance like his cousin John, but he decided that his job was to find a way to deal with the poor and the sinners and the sick, whom he called the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And so he started to teach and walk as a peripatetic rabbi and healer among the poor, the blind, the lame, the crippled, the lepers, the hungry, the miserable, the sinners and prostitutes, tax collectors, demoniacs, the persecuted, downtrodden, captives, all who labor and are overburdened, the rabble who know nothing of the law, the crowds, the little ones, the least, the last, and the babes of the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So, that would take a long time to cover that all. But this leprosy thing always got me. So I want to take a thing about leprosy. This is by a guy whose name is John Dominic Crossan, who teaches theology at DePaul. And he's talking about leprosy. And he's talking about the fact that this was not Hansen's disease. It was probably exactly what had gone and Naaman had had, which is something visible, something that gives sores, breaks the skin open, and makes a person feel like they're isolated. And he quotes how the people who had this disease were treated and what a terrible life that they had because of these scabrous, psoriasis, eczema things that they had. And this is what the law said about these people. The person who has the leprous disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head be disheveled. He shall cover his upper lip and cry out, unclean, unclean. He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. Now, this is Indigenous Peoples Weekend. That's why I have the gift that I got from Anne's grandmother, who lived to be 106, the Thunderbird, in favor of the Indigenous people. The Samaritan story in the Bible was one more time that the war between the Samaritans, who had their own temple and their own hill and mountain, and were rivals of the Israelis, and were therefore the stranger, if not the enemy, that the hero wasn't just the Good Samaritan that found the man that had been beaten up on the road and took care of him. It was this Samaritan that was healed and came back and wanted to thank Jesus. And Jesus, naming him as a Samaritan, was teaching a lesson that he continued to teach about women, the dispossessed, the poor, the little ones, the ones that were outside and not able to even come to the edge of the crowd, but were pariahs that had to be outside the crowd. He was not only preaching to them, but saying that the loving God that he called Abba, Papa, that loving God preferred that whole assemblage. All those that were outcast, all those that were pariahs, all those that couldn't come near, all those that were embarrassed. And so the story that was in the gospel undergirds what's going on in the world today. Imagine not having someone be equal because what? They went transgender, because they were gay, because they actually somehow or other had an abortion, that they actually went out of a country to find a medical procedure that wasn't allowed them, because they were women, because they were weak, because they were different orientations. All of those things that somehow or other, not only have we not found a way to do what Jesus with his pedagogy did, which makes them feel not only special, but loved. And that this life that they had lost and may never get back, as long as they had the outbreak on their skin and the redness in their body that made them, quote, unclean. Now, they were now able to have their life back. The Pope went to Canada to make up for the sins of the church. My moral theology teacher at the Catholic seminary said the four signs of the church are one, holy, Catholic, and sinful. And so a lot of times this group that today we celebrate by just remembering what it was like to have what they call leprosy. The Swedish physician discovered and named the microorganism that was leprosy in 1868. This was not in biblical times. And so one of the things that needs to happen is that we need to have a pedagogy in our lives that basically can take a fisherman, a young woman that may be in love with a peripatetic rabbi, and have them become apostles of love, opening their lives and hearts to anyone that was shunned, anyone that was hated, anyone that was prejudiced, prejudice was used against. And so the churches, many times have not been part of the Jesus dream of all people being able to say, not with phylacteries and special gowns and robes and albs. Daddy, tell me what I should do in this situation. I don't know what to say. Should I touch? Should I hold? Should I hug? I can certainly forgive and pray. And so I rest the pedagogy of Jesus for further work. And I'm grateful to all of you for wanting to be what Jesus wanted the fishermen and the women that followed him, and those like Paul that went and tried to preach about a God of love all over the world of that time. And himself was killed because his message was so well lived and so powerful that it threatened the powers that be, not just the government, but the leaders of the faith. Amen. In Solitude, 521. Silence and simplicity, my spirit blossoms there. When the world is troubling me and stress is all around, I seek the presence of my God and healing light is found. In seasons of perplexity, in times of deep despair, I light a candle in the night and turn to God in prayer. And when my heart is burdened down with cares for those I love, too deep for words, with groans and sighs descends the Holy Dove. With psalms and hymns and songs of praise before my God come, I will ride unknown. And God, as we go forth amongst the colors of leaves, the colors of skins, the colors of passion and love, may your Spirit, the one that hovered over you in the water of your cousin when you were baptized, may that love be in our hearts wherever we go, knowing that the Father that creates is blessing any approach of love that we can find in our days. Amen.